The dungeon called the Ancient Dragon Nest has finally been cleared by none other than player Shin Sanghyeon, who really is tired of all this. Why is he working so hard when he's almost in his 60s? It's been 30 years since he started his life as a swordsman. However, his best achievement was that he was in the top 100 of the country. He's basically just a needle in a haystack filled with needles. His reward for this clearly seems to be a skill book, but he has eaten these types of artifacts before. With a large light, a portal appears and the constellation Late Bloomer model student enters, congratulating Shin for his hard work and complimenting him for his amazing final strike. This is his contracted constellation. He's really grateful he actually got one since he's only a third-rate swordsman. However, he has quite a few needy conditions. In level 850, all his artifact and title stats are doubled. And on level 900, those stats are tripled. He has yet to benefit from these because he's only level 650. The Late Bloomer modern student suggests he gets to eating the skill book, but Shin was just in the middle of doing that to devour artifacts. This is the only skill that he has gotten since awakening. In order to understand his skill, he tried boiling them, frying them, but nothing came out different. By the time he ended his experiments, rather useless ones too, 30 years passed. All that he had to do to use his skill was use mana synchronization as if the artifact is of suitable rank. It will naturally devour it. However, this realization came far too late for him as others grow powerful as soon as they awaken. This time the devour is a failure too, making Shin throw it away in anger. Shouldn't there be instructions or something? The model student apologizes. There's very little information about that skill, so he's not able to help. He also says that since there is a lot of time, he should start the mana synchronization once more. Shin can't believe him. How can he say that when he's almost 60? And if he had a child at 30, they would be turning 30 soon. If he had a child even earlier than that, he would have grandchildren. The model student apologizes for saying something wrong, but Shin says that he hasn't done anything wrong. His life is just full of regrets. He could never forget that person's tall back. He tried his absolute best to become like him, but he's exhausted and far too old for any of this. The model student gets an idea. Before Shin can say that he's going to retire, the model student casts a spell on him that proceeds to slowly melt him. The model student is using the essence he experimented with to give him what he wants, another chance in the form of a regression. At a TV show, Park Young, a reporter for the player G, asks someone about the dungeon and gates. They are basically environments for those awakened or players as they call them, right? Han Hyun-jong, the Hyun-jong Corporation CEO, confirms as such. The dungeons are basically the stepping stones and the gates allow them to travel to other dimensions in completely new worlds. It's an amazing sight to see. Shin watches all of this on his old TV, surprised that he actually did regress to his time. He now has a firmer grasp on the situation, but 4 days have already passed and he has only gone back 30 years. After the model student did that thing, he lost consciousness and woke up in his studio apartment. He knew right quick that he wasn't in his old and decrepit body, but in his fresh and young one. He knew then that this was the constellation's miracle. But that still leaves many questions. That's why he's confused. But he doesn't care as now he can go back to work with him. He has a bronze artifact, the Venomed Dagger. He was really lucky to acquire something like this. It may be low rank, but he knows of its hidden skill. He begins absorbing it slowly, the rate of absorption being rather slow since he has not used it long. But what's important is the hidden skill. The monosynchronization with the dagger begins, and he is dragged into the gap of consciousness, the place he needs to go through in order to eat an artifact. He always gets nervous when he comes to this place, but it's rather pleasant now. The preparations to absorb the dagger are complete, and it comes in the form of rotisserie barbecue chicken drizzled with fresh olive oil. Shin is glad to see a normal dish and not something like centipede mush. With that, he begins indulging. And after he's finished, he permanently gets 2 agility and the secret skill, Demon Bash. With that, the dagger disappears completely. A shame it got destroyed. But he did obtain the skill he wanted, plus a pretty nice meal, so he should get going and see what he can do now. At the 85th dungeon, Yoon Dukyong's team eagerly waits to go inside. But suddenly, someone runs up to him, which he recognizes as the Porter Group leader. He explains that one of his team members, ch1-6, pulled out of his team. He's just a newcomer who joined 4 days ago. Dayoung tells him not to worry about him. It's been decided that he will be joining the player team anyway. The Porter leader is confused. How can a Porter become part of the player team? Daekyong tells him that he had the final approval. Is there a problem with that? The Porter leader says that of course there is. It has not been long at all since he awakened. He hasn't even been through the player academy yet. Adding someone like that to his team is something extremely shunned upon. If he does this, the team will become unbalanced. How is he supposed to distribute the work? Daekyung turns to him and asks, does he not take care of everything in the end? Like his party and the distribution of items? The Porter leader is intimidated, so he backs away without saying much else. But even one of his men wonders why he accepted Shin. He did so because he believes that if someone has to die, he would rather that guy die than any of his. And he will also make an excellent example to those porters. Eventually, Shin arrives and introduces himself, but everyone from the porters to the players gives him strange looks, which they aren't even trying to hide at this point. Dayoung greets him warmly. He thought he would be late on his first day since it's almost time to start. He also sees that he has a long sword, which Shin explains he has studied on the internet. Daekyong warns him that it's one of the hardest things to wield properly, but Shin vows that he can at least protect himself, so there shouldn't be any worry. Daekyong trusts him and his spirit. A man certainly needs that, so he tells everyone to follow him as they are about to go in as everyone does. So, Daekyong looks at Shin and thinks he's ridiculous. One can't just study that blade on the internet. He probably thinks that the dungeons are just for fun, but he will soon see that being a player is not all sunshine and rainbows. According to the strategy he got, this is an orc dungeon which is extremely deadly for new players. So, he will soon learn on his own how foolish he is. That same fool manages to take out all of the orcs in front of him, including the boss, without even getting so much as a scratch. He has done this so swiftly that everyone wonders who the hell he is. The orcs are monsters that are a part of any good fantasy setting. And because people are so familiar with them, it was a given that they would have prejudices. More specifically, that they are weak. Naturally, when compared to monsters such as a dragon, they certainly seem that way. But because of this, new players, their hearts filled with arrogance, jump into fights with orcs, thinking that it's an easy kill. Unfortunately for them, the orc is rather simple. They usually average around 250 centimeters long and have a weight of 180 kilograms. These two physical traits give them an unimaginable gap in power against puny humans. And for this reason, they are called the Wall of Lament, something noobs can hardly get over. As they walk into the dungeon, one of the party members tells Shin that he won't get any special treatment from any of them just because he's a new player. And the porter leader also thinks he's acting all macho just because he awakened. What an arrogant bastard. Shin says that he will try his best while thinking that everyone is out for him. But the party members tell him to not just try, but actually do his best. Was he this annoying as a porter, too? Shin just smiles and asks if he can fight in the front lines if they come across some monsters. The party member tries to tell him that he has a death wish, but when he looks behind, he spots a gigantic orc. Shin is excited to have his first battle after regression, but the party member jumps in with his shield and screams that he's totally insane. How is he going to use a great sword against this guy when he moves so slow? Shin tells him that he doesn't need help, making the party member scream even more, but Shin advises him to look in front of him. The party member does so, but it's too late as a gigantic axe is hurling itself towards him. Suddenly, Daekyung intervenes and puts the orc to the ground with a bash. He reprimands the two for speaking so casually. They should get it together already. The party member apologizes and Dayoung explains that he will take care of this guy. The orc, now filled with rage, charges in, but Dayoung easily blocks the attack and charges his blade into the orc's tough chest. This makes the team think that he is dealt with, but the orc becomes even angrier and charges in with his axe while taking the blade out of his chest. Shin watches silently. He is not impressed by Dayoung at all. And considering he is the highest level here and only a level 50 at that, he doesn't have much hope for the rest. He charges in once again, hitting the orc straight this time, making it fall to the ground. The party celebrates and Daeong asks if they are all right. But before he can celebrate with them, a party of red orcs appears, all of them ready for a bloodbath. The party members become spooked and ask what they should do. Daeong, knowing that he alone can barely take care of one orc, tells them that they have to retreat. Shin wants to give it a try, immediately gathering disdain from the other members. But before Daekyung can tell him not to do it, he charges in, killing the first orc with a single slash. The party members are a ruck. How can a newbie split a red orc in two like this? Shin expected to cut him fully, but he doesn't have much power since he's only level 1. The orcs notice his arrogance and charge in while screaming. But even if Shin is lower level, he still has years of experience under his belt. The 3 orcs that charged him are instantly dealt with, allowing the armored one to slash in his direction, and the strike almost connects, but Shin expertly dodges and slashes upwards to take him down. The party members are all shocked and now fully believe that he can do it. Shin moves on to the final orc, a heavily armored one, who screams out as it strikes. Shin simply jumps away from its attack and tries to slash his head off, but the blade stops. DK-young tells him that the skin is too thick, but it's too late as the armored orc has already redirected his attack to chop Shin's head off. He, however, is not worried at all as he activates the Demon Bash skill, which hinders a target for 2.0 seconds with the success rate and hindrance depending on the target. This seems to have stunned the orc completely, who can only scream as its head flies out from its neck. Everyone is stunned to see this, even more so since the fact that he is a fresh awakened lingers in their minds. That hindrance skill too. He thought that a player's best record for that was 1.5 seconds. The party also talked about his skill with the greatsword. Just what kinds of videos has he watched to learn this? Daekyung doesn't know what to say. Where did this guy get a hindrance skill? Shin levels up as a result of this. And he also fulfills the conditions for a title, an F rank one, the fearless immature puppy. This gives him +5 evasion, but Shin is more pressed about the name. Since he has 1 stat point available, he puts it into luck. As it relates to skill hit rate and artifact drop rate, Daekyung asks if he really is who he says he is. He just used a hindrance skill. Where did he even get such a thing? Shin can't tell him, he just regressed, so he says he got it when he awakened. Taeyong thinks he's trying to avoid the question with this. Maybe he just got lucky and pulled a diamond rank artifact. He's referring to the sword. So Shin gives it to him only to see that it's just an ordinary great sword, meaning that the skill he used really was his. Daekyung is annoyed. He has been running dungeons left and right for 2 entire years. But even he does not have a skill as good as this, despite being level 50. Before he can think anymore, a scout reports that the middle boss is up ahead. Daekyung knows he cannot let this dampen his reputation. He thanks Shin for taking care of the ads, but he should not overstep his role. That skill of his will not do a single thing against a demonic orc after all. Shin now remembers why he returned to this party specifically. So he calls out Daekyung and asks if he kills the demonic orc on his own, can he receive the artifact that drops upon killing it? The Crimson Stone is an artifact that can only be dropped by a demonic orc, but even those have a really low chance of dropping it. However, Shin learned something in his past life when their team failed to defeat the demon orc. They were lucky enough to see the Crimson Stone in person when another team got their hands on it. The others asked how they managed to get such a rare thing and thought it would fetch a pretty penny on the market since it has the delay skill. Shin remembered that skill until now. It is one he desperately needs. He already knows that this party distributes items based on contribution. If he defeats that monster alone, then there should be no issues, right? It is critical for him to obtain the delay skill for the future. But most people would think badly of him, who is acting cocky when he's just a newbie. Sure enough, the party members jump on him. He thinks he's so tough when he only took care of a couple of orcs. Daekyung tells him to do as he pleases without even giving him his glance. But that's only if they failed to defeat the boss. Only then will he be allowed to enter the dungeon on his own and kill the boss. Does he understand? Shin is happy with this outcome, But this means he will step out of this battle, right? Daeong tells him to do whatever. He will show this cocky bastard what's what. Just because he's got a rare skill, he thinks he can take a boss down. He will show him that what truly matters on this battlefield is the people you lead and the experience one has. Upon entering the door, they encounter the middle boss, the bloodthirsty demonic orc. Daekyong tells everyone to prepare. They will just circle it and attack from the rear when they can. He laughs at Shin's notion of solo play. He will never get the chance to do that. Not here, anyway. He rushes in with his squad valiantly. But soon enough, Daekyong wakes up confused on the ground, covered in blood, wondering what even happened. Shin is actually worried for them. He didn't expect to see them charge in like that. This is probably why they failed in the past, too. The party asks what they should do. They obviously can't just let themselves get killed. Daekyong wonders why all the orcs here are so strong. Even the first one was a problem. He will kill his informant the next time he sees him. Anyway, he is not about to let his squad get killed because of his greed. So he sends the order to retreat, which Shin is very glad to hear. They all think something's wrong with him, but the order remains the same. They will retreat in its flank. Before leaving, Daekyong approaches Shin and says that he warned him he shouldn't haunt him if he dies. Shin scoffs. He should relax. Nobody is going to die today. The demonic orc charges him angrily. Shin thinking that if they are to compare stats, there's no way for him to win. However, he has experience on his side. He deflects the orc's blade and the others hear this commotion, wondering if he really deflected that axe. Shin's hand stings from just this. Deflecting is probably his limit, but he won't stop because he can see his prize, his crimson stone. The reason he's so adamant on getting it is the special effect of combining delay and demon bash. It is hard to see how the 2-second stun that demon bash inflicts can still be improved considering it's pretty good. However, with his devour skill, he is able to combine the effects of skills. So, this gave him an idea to get a skill that would allow him to stack demon bash. That would be an amazing combination. It would basically let him apply an infinite stun. And with the delay skill, something like this is more than possible. Shin challenges the demonic orc to come forward, who falls for this taunt and attacks once again. Shin got exactly what he wanted, because with this, he can find his weak spots. With a single slash, the demonic orc is forced to drop his axe because of the demon bash skill. And Daekyong can't believe something like that works on bosses. That should be illegal. Shin is surprised by how easily he dealt with something that's supposed to be difficult to kill. But suddenly, the orc kicks him without a warning, forcing him to block the attack. Shin actually forgot about the orc's next ability. It's self-heal, which makes the stun last less than normal. In order to stun it properly, he needs 15 seconds, which is why he needs delay in the first place. If he cannot stun him, he just has to defeat him some other way. The orc attacks once again, but Shin knocks his axe down, and they engage in a brutal exchange. As the others watch, the party members tell Daekyong that they should go. They have to get out of here before that guy dies. Daekyong, however, doesn't get him. His stun does not work, and there's a gap in their stats. Too big for him to do anything. Why then is he making that kind of face? Is he truly a newbie? As he says, Shin has been in situations just like this more than a few times. If he is too weak, he just focuses everything into a single point. He will forget about cutting him and use his own strength against him. With this, he can pierce through. Using the orc's own momentum, Shin strikes him in the heart, killing the demonic orc in an instant. He gains 2 levels along with the Demon Hunter title, which increases his health regeneration while fighting middle bosses or above. Shin is glad to see 2 titles already. These are the benefits of going solo. He gets distracted by Daekyong's approach before he can spend his points, who looks at Shin with complete awe. He knows that this will become annoying if he lets the situation end like this. So he exclaims that he almost died. What would he have done if his mighty leader did not deal damage? The party members immediately believe him, but Daekyong doesn't know what he's talking about. Shin just looks at him knowingly. He's giving him a chance to preserve his reputation. Daekyong looks at the orb and understands he got completely defeated. He tells the party that since they got rid of the middle boss, they will not be moving on to the final one. The party chats as they walk away, leaving Shin with the only thing he wants, the Crimson Orb, which he will devour it now. He goes into the gap of unconsciousness where the Crimson Orb is presented as a masterfully crafted Bimming Mune with meat jelly. Shin is very happy to indulge in such a delicious treat, and with his first bite, the absorption progress begins. He also gains his health and strength stats increased by 2 because of the absorption and soon enough gets the delay skill. With this, he can add the delay effect to his skills. So, he chooses Demon Bash, which now will stack if he hits before the timer is over. However, these go in chances, although it's pretty dangerous at first. At least he is guaranteed a 4 SE second on stun, something which would allow him to slay anything. Daekyuong comes around and asks if they can chat. He just wants to let him know that the boss room to the Orc Berserker is right near this one. Shin asks him if he wants him to stay back again, but Daeong denies that he would be a fool to not utilize a member like him. He wants to work together with him. Shin agrees, but tells him that the conditions are the same, which Daeong doesn't mind. A party member comes and explains that they are ready for the boss room, so they should go. But before leaving, he gives Shin a very stern look. He doesn't know why he did that, but whatever. They eventually get to the final boss, the Orc Berserker. Daik moves forwards with a frightened step, but Shin tells him to just stick around him for this fight. Orc Berserkers have lower skill resistance than, say, a demonic orc, so it should be easier to stun in theory at least. As he charges the orc, he wonders if he was ever so confident. When he was young, he was scared all of the time. Then he grew old and struggled to stay alive because of his low level. He promised himself now to never live like that. He has to change from his weak self and for his future. To do that, he must show and prove to everyone watching him now that he is a monster. After one slash, he screams at the others to charge in as he's stunned for 4 seconds. They all do so with the orc only being able to see its death slowly approach. After more than a few slashes, the boss is killed and the dungeon is cleared. The party members are surprised they cleared a dungeon so swiftly. The stun really made things a cakewalk. The porters discuss if they should talk with Shin for one of them to become his personal porter. But he doesn't plan to do crap for them. He gains 2 levels again and another title, Overflowing Power, which gives his status effects 10% more duration. This is something new to him as he never got titles in his previous life. But he cannot compare himself to that man just yet. Dunu, the Ghost Blade, the title collector, the complete sword, and the strongest Korean swordsman. Only 2 years after the Age of Players began, he surpassed even level 500. Before he looked up to him, but now that he regressed, he has the chance to catch up. Daeong asks what he's doing with him, only admitting to stretching. But anyway, Daekyuong wanted him to have something, an artifact ring. Shin asks why he's giving him something valuable. But Daekyuong tells him that he carried their asses. And this is just a bronze rank artifact, so it isn't worth much. The guy who glared at him earlier cannot believe this. He's getting special treatment only because he showed off a couple of times. This is so unfair. He knows what he has to do. So, he calls up one of his criminal friends. Back home, Shin admires the money Daekyuong gave him, which is double the usual amount, and the bonus Berserker ring, which increases strength, but it also has the lighten effect. Shin is happy to see that effect on this ring, as it lets him spend 1 mana per second to reduce the weight of all artifacts equipped to 1G. Although he gets why it's bronze, most players would run out of mana before anything, but he's not most players. He only discovered his ability after 50 grueling years, but that is why he studied so hard. He devoured an artifact that needed mana in his previous life too, and he found something shocking. The special effect of the artifacts that require mana do receive a penalty, but their mana cost is completely removed. He doesn't care about the penalties when he can just get more skills. That night at Private Club H in Gangnam, the glaring party member tells his friend group of criminals about Shin and his 4-second stun. One of them reprimands him after he raises his voice. But so what? Does he want revenge or something? The member just wanted to tell them that he's loaded. But why would they give a crap? One of the girls tells the main criminal that he seems very close with that loser, prompting him to cut the member's ear off clean. Who the hell does he think they are? His personal maids or something? He splashes alcohol on the wound to make it worse, taking it as his price. He will listen as much as that ear is worth, so he should start talking and tell them where that bastard is already. The next day, Shin goes to the Jamshell training grounds, but has difficulty concentrating because what came out of the Berserker ring was an Eastern cold cucumber soup that no one likes. His stomach is still rumbling from what happened, but it's fine as there's a silver lining. He throws the great sword around like a pocket knife before catching it. He has gotten the lightweight skill from the ring which has its mana consumption deleted, but to compensate the artifacts will be 100G. He just has this big thing to play around with now, but he doesn't even want to know what will happen if he throws it. Next up, he looks at his stats, most being in luck and evasion. He has to grab the attention of the constellation soon, and since a player can only have one, he must pick carefully. If possible, he would like someone who goes best with the luck stat, but for now, they won't even look at him. So training is the best thing he can do now. After a few days, he comes out of the training grounds pretty tired from the whole ordeal. Not only did he train, but he also drove quite a lot. But he did manage to get a new skill, the ambidextrous sword training, which increases his adaptability with all manner of blades. He has arrived at the 101 dungeon, a solo player exclusive. It would take months to enter one normally, as he would have to wait in a queue, but driving here is much quicker. He looks behind him as he seems to have some stalkers. He did not expect for them to come even through the forest. They must want something of his, but whatever it is, they will have to settle it in the dungeon. The criminal party eventually goes inside after Shin, where they find him waiting. This is supposed to be a solo player dungeon, and since he's already here, they should get lost now. The group leader asks if he's hit in the head, making Shin give them one last chance. He swears he won't report them. He analyzes their party. They don't have a healer or mage. They don't have sustainability, something crucial in a dungeon. They formed a party that seems to be solely created for hunting, human hunting. They are the hyena pack. The burly member laughs in his face. A broom-haired member tells him that he will die here and nobody will be able to recover his body. In the past, these types of parties were eradicated by the Players Association's constant surveillance. But it seems these guys escaped their gaze. For parties like this, the archer is the hardest to get rid of. Shin explains that this is why he eagerly waited for them. If he had to hide for bodies, what better place than a dungeon? The burly guy gets mad, but the leader stops him as they should do things the easy way now. He hesitates, but when Shin tells him to listen to his master like a good boy, he charges, blinded by rage. This is survival of the fittest, a saying that suits the dungeons best. Monsters are always on the hunt for players, and within the same dungeons lie artifacts that people will die for. Everyone knows when becoming a player that they are fighting with their lives on the line at every moment. If one is weak, they die. There are no rules here, so it's kill or be killed. That is what he experienced a lot of in his past life, and it seems that it still applies even now. As a result, everything he does here, no matter how brutal, is just simple self-defense. He beckons the others to come forth, but they run past him with the leader telling the archer to cover them so they can get in position. He agrees, but he is rather startled by the fact that he killed Sanghyeon. Even if he is an idiot, he managed to reach level 100. Even though he awakened recently, he was a good unit. Shin flips his sword as he asks where they are going, prompting the archer to shoot at him. But with one lunge, his arrows break in front of him, and the sword curbs his life. The leader is mortified. He threw a great sword at amazing speed. This can only mean one thing. He does not have a weapon now. This is the perfect time to attack. He screams at the last remaining member to attack, and they all rush to the same spot. Shin reaches for his blade, but the two attack at the same time. Their strikes go into the ground. As Shin has balanced himself on the blade, the swordsman thinks that he's insane, but that's his last thought. Because as Shin pulls his blade out, the leader uses him as a shield to save his own blood, doing so without an ounce of regret. Shin lands and says that he has thought about it while fighting. They seem to be organ traders, right? No matter how much he purse, there's no way they are working together because of an undying trust or something like that. They are prodigy awakening mana stones through organ transplants. Correct. He may look young, but he has seen some really nasty stuff. The leader says that it doesn't matter what he thinks. Even if what he says is true, he will die here. Shin just wanted to confirm as he was getting pretty bored with them. Suddenly, the leader is stunned for 4.44 seconds because of the small cuts he incurred when protecting himself. Before he can wonder what type of skill this is, Shin says that his life will end today. The leader has never been in this position. Once he enters a dungeon with someone, he is always the predator ready to feast on his prey. Shin notices his shaking. But why has he not experienced being close to death before? Is he afraid now that it's his turn to meet death? After he's done with him, Shin washes his blade in a nearby river. He really doesn't want to get into a situation like this again. Now there's no chance that he will become noticed by the constellations. Well, that was self-defense, so it doesn't count, right? Still, he has obtained quite a nice haul of artifacts from this encounter, numbering 8 in total. Now he's level 11 and has gained quite a bit of stats from those criminals. Just based on the stats alone, he's basically at the strength of a level 50, even though it's only been some days since he returned. Additionally, he also had a silver artifact among the bronze ones, the recovery ring, which allows him to cleanse any status abnormalities using 10 mana and can be used again in only a minute. But the mana cost will double. He got lucky as he found this ring on the first guy he killed. If he put his trust in the stun, if they were to fight normally, he would have been screwed, so he will have to be careful. Naturally, he uses mana synchronization on the ring. Deeper into the dungeon, a bunch of goblins are going about their duties. But they suddenly spot Shin, who is slowly approaching, his eyes covered. This is because he wants to get the Lucky Day title. He has to kill 500 monsters with his eye closed. The goblins just growl at him, but one of them notices that his sword is an artifact, something which they desperately desire. Shin knows he has to detect their presence. He must feel the airflow and make sure his ears listen to everything. He focuses hard, everything around him becoming like water, so he knows exactly when and from where an attack will come from. One of the goblins charges in, but Shin swipes forward, clearing him and the others with ease. He must admit this actually feels pretty good. An arrow suddenly makes its way towards his head, but he notices and simply catches it, making the goblin who shot it sweat profusely. Shin admits that his previous situation was quite horrible. Thanks to that, he had a chance to reminisce about the past, and that improved his sense. Anyway, they probably don't even understand him, so they should all come at him. The goblins rush in with reckless abandon, only for Shin to begin his murder spree, cutting them up left and right. One of them knows that they are screwed, so it can only stare at his dead comrades as he waits for his turn. Eventually, Shin is done with them. He gains 2 levels, and since he killed over 500 of them, the Lucky Day title, which gives him 20+ luck, an amazing boost. Shin is glad to see it in his hands, but a sat he analyzes. A bunch of goblins walk up. They come back home to stash their stuff, only to find everyone dead. Shin doesn't mind a few extra experience points, though, so he swiftly deals with them, too, boosting his stats even more. He really won in life. This stat alone could be worth $1 billion in the right hands. Suddenly, his surroundings grow dim as a portal opens behind him. It appears that 3 constellations have come to visit him. The cleaner of a fallen dimension is first. He wonders if he has any interest in making others unlucky. The Pilgrim of Grand Space is requesting a conversation because of how intrigued he is, and the Goddess of Luck simply smiles and reaches her hand out. Shin is surprised by how quickly the constellations came, and even more so that 3 came at the same time. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for next part.